The digestive system. So this starts in the mouth, and it starts with taking your first bite of food, which is a bite of an apple. Okay, the teeth then chew the food using mechanical digestion, which is known as mastication. Mechanical digestion is the breakup of larger pieces of food into smaller pieces of food. This food, the saliva is then being released from all the salivary glands through the salivary ducts, and there's 3 salivary ducts. And this is then mixed with the food to start to turn into a bolus, which is a liquid food. So this makes it easier for the body to then absorb further through the digestion, and also easier to swallow down the esophagus. Once the food is all chewed up by the teeth, the tongue then pushes it back the throat and down the esophagus, and then the digestion continues the next stage in the esophagus. So the esophagus is just down here, which is in your throat, just near your trachea, and this connects the pharynx down to the stomach. So it's about 25 centimetres long and 2 centimetres wide, so about just as short as the length of a ruler. So contractions happen down the esophagus to push that piece of apple down into the stomach, and this is called peristalsis. So this is where it just pushes in and out, in and out, in and out, down to the stomach. And this is very efficient, as even if he was to stand on his head and eat the apple, then it would still push down into the stomach. It's controlled by 2 sphincters, the upper esophageal sphincter and the lower esophageal sphincter. So the upper one controls the food going from the pharynx into the esophagus, and the lower one controls the food going from the esophagus into the stomach. And this just keeps the flow of food going down instead of up and out the mouth. So this is only reversed once due to one thing, which is vomiting. So the sphincters will allow the food to go up, and peristalsis won't push the vomit down, it'll keep it up to get all the harmful substances out of the body. So from the esophagus and the lower esophageal sphincter, this connects to the stomach. So stomach is a muscular sac which is about the size of 2 fists put together. And this is a big storage for food, so it allows the body to digest large meals properly and more efficiently. So the stomach contains hydrochloric acid, which is a very acidic acid, and this is where enzymes work best, as it is a lower pH, and enzymes work best in conditions of lower pH, so they're not denatured. And mechanical digestion also happens within the stomach through churning, and this breaks the food, all the boluses down, and it mixes it with all the hydrochloric acid and enzymes to make it into a partially digested thing, which is called chyme. So from the stomach, it then moves into the small intestine, which is underneath the stomach here. And the small intestine is actually larger than the large intestine, but it's only known as small intestine as the circumference is a lot smaller. Because this is about 6 meters long, and it's essentially a muscular tube which continues the breakdown of the food, the bolus, and which then turns to chyme. And the enzymes are released from the pancreas, and the bile, which is released from the liver, all helps this process. So it's split into 3 sections. You've got the first section, which is the duodenum, which helps the bile and all the enzymes continue to mix to break down the chunk of apple even further. And then you've got the middle section, which is the jejunum, which is where all the nutrients are then reabsorbed back into the body. And then you've got the final section, which is the ileum, and this is where all the food is moved from the small intestine to the large intestine, and it's where if any absorption is missed out in the jejunum, then it continues to be reabsorbed in the body in the ileum. So the structure of the small intestine, so the interior walls are like circular folds, and these is split into 4 main layers. So the first layer is the mucosa, which is where the absorption of all the nutrients from the chyme can go back into the body. You've got the submucosa layer, which is where you've got all the blood vessels, which just supports the mucosa and the layer. You've then got the smooth muscle, which just helps the small intestines use peristalsis and helps the contractions of the small intestine. And you've got the serosa, which just surrounds the whole small intestine. So mucosa have like finger-like things known as villi, which increase the surface area, and within these cells you've got microvilli, which further increase the surface area. So during peristalsis of the small intestine, while the food's going down, or the chyme, the microvilli and villi have as much contact with this chyme as possible, and then that means that more nutrients have been absorbed into the body. So once the nutrients have been absorbed into the body and the chyme's gone through its peristalsis, the contents of the small intestine are now a liquid form, as in they started off as a semi-solid. And all this is due to all the water, the bile from the liver, all the enzymes from the pancreas, and also the mucose throughout the walls of the small intestine, which have contributed to the change in the state. And finally, it moves on to the large intestine, also known as the colon, which is about 6 foot long, and it connects the small intestine to the rectum. So large intestine is made up of different aspects. You've got the cecum, you've got the ascending colon, which is just on the right hand side, the transverse, which is just across, and then the descending, which is on the left. And you've also got the appendix and the sigmoid colon, which is what connects to the rectum. So large intestine is a very highly specialised organ, and it's responsible for processing all the waste from the food. It also reabsorbs any useful vitamins which have been collected from gut bacteria. Peristalsis also happens in the large intestine to push all the chyme through and out of the rectum. The structure is very, very similar to the small intestine, and the fact that it's got the 4 different layers. It's got the smooth muscle wall to help with the peristalsis. The only difference is it doesn't have all the villi and microvilli, as it doesn't need to absorb anything, as it can do that by itself. And it also absorbs water, any excess water which has happened, and then all the food is then released as feces, and then the whole process will start again.